Let me paint you a picture that might ruin your morning. You're scrolling through your phone on a random Wednesday, sipping some overpriced coffee, and you casually check your brokerage account, and something weird happens. Your portfolio went up $400 yesterday. You do the math in your head. After taxes, your actual take-home pay for that same day of soul-crushing work was about $300. Your money made more than you did, sitting there doing nothing, while you were stuck in traffic, dealing with passive-aggressive emails, pretending to care about quarterly projections. And here is the part that should terrify you. This wasn't luck. This is a pattern. Your investments are starting to consistently outpace your salary. Your money is working harder than you are. And suddenly, this thought hits you like a freight train. What if I just didn't show up tomorrow? Not enough to live on yet, but the lines are crossing. This moment has a name. It is called the crossover point. And here is what keeps me up at night. Most people will grind for 40 years straight, never knowing this moment even exists. They'll trade hours for dollars until their bodies break down, then pray that Social Security and whatever scraps they manage to save are enough to not eat cat food in their 70s. That is not a retirement plan. That is a hostage situation with extra steps. My name is Croc, and I spend way too much time thinking about the invisible line that separates economic slavery from actual freedom. If you feel like you're running on a hamster wheel that keeps spinning faster, no matter how hard you work, if the idea of freedom sounds amazing, but all the financial advice out there feels like vague garbage designed to sell you courses, hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up, because today we're not talking about cutting coupons or making your own cold brew to save $3. We're talking about a specific date, a date you can calculate right now, where you officially win this rigged game. The date you can look your boss in the eye and say, I don't need this anymore. Here is what makes the crossover point different from all the other bullshit financial concepts out there. It is not a vibe. It is not a mindset. It is not some guru telling you to manifest abundance. It is math, cold, hard, calculable math. A specific point in time where you reach financial escape velocity. This concept comes from a book called Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robin and Joe Dominguez, published in 1992. One of the most important ideas in personal finance, and almost nobody talks about it because it doesn't sell products. It doesn't require a subscription. It just requires you to understand 2 lines on a graph. Let me break it down. You've got 2 financial lines in your life. They're moving every single day, whether you pay attention or not. Line number 1 is your expenses. Everything it costs you to exist: rent, mortgage, food, gas, insurance, Netflix, that gym membership you never use. Everything. For the average American household, this number hovers around $5,000 to $6,000 a month, maybe more if you live somewhere like California or New York, maybe less if you're in the Midwest somewhere. But you've got a number that is your monthly burn rate. Line number 2 is your investment income, what your money generates while you sleep. Dividends, interest, capital gains. For most people just starting out, this line is basically invisible. You've got maybe $3,000 in a savings account earning 4%. That is $10 a month. Congratulations, you can afford one sad sandwich. Not exactly life-changing, but here is what nobody tells you. That second line, The investment income line, it doesn't grow in a straight diagonal. It curves upward slowly at first, so slow you can barely see it. Then it starts to bend and bend harder, and suddenly it is rising faster than you ever imagined. That is compound interest, and it is not linear, it is exponential. The crossover point is the exact moment when line 2 crosses above line 1, when your passive investment income exceeds your monthly expenses, when showing up to work becomes a choice instead of a requirement, when your money is generating enough to cover your life, whether you log in to your laptop or not. That is it. That is the whole game. Everything you do financially is either moving you toward that point or away from it. Let me put real numbers on this, because I know you're skeptical. Let's say your monthly expenses are $4,000. That is $48,000 a year, using the 4% safe withdrawal rate, which is the standard rule for how much you can sustainably pull from a portfolio without running out of money before you die. You need $1.2 million invested. That is your crossover number, $1.2 million. Now, I know what you're thinking, Croc. That is insane. I'll never have $1.2 million. I can barely afford my rent. But let's actually run the math instead of just panicking, because I think you'll be surprised. Let's say you are 30 years old, making $60,000 a year. You are investing $500 a month, average annual return of 8%, which is actually below the historical average of the S&P 500. Here is what happens. After 10 years, at age 40, you've got about $91,000. Your annual investment income at 4% is roughly $3,600. That is $300 a month. Your expenses are $4,000 a month. Gap is massive. Lines aren't even close to crossing. Feels hopeless. Keep going. After 20 years at age 50, you've got about $275,000. Investment income around $11,000 a year, about $900 a month. Still not there, but something's different now. The gap is closing faster. After 25 years, at age 55, you've got $430,000. Investment income about $17,000 a year, $1,400 a month. The curve is bending hard. After 30 years, at age 60, $670,000. Investment income, nearly $27,000. You are generating over $2,000 a month passively. More than halfway there. At this rate, you hit the crossover point of $1.2 million, right around age 65, traditional retirement age. And you might be thinking, so I invest for 35 years and retire at a normal age. What is so revolutionary about that, Croc? Here is where I need to demolish everything you've been taught. That scenario I just described, $500 a month for 35 years. That is the slow path. That is what happens when you invest modestly and wait patiently for compound interest to carry all the weight. But here is the thing about the crossover point that changes everything. It is not a fixed destination. It is a function of two variables, your portfolio and your expenses. And most people are only focused on one side. Watch what happens when you attack both sides. In our first scenario, you had $4,000 in monthly expenses. Crossover number was $1.2 million. What if you got your expenses down to $3,000 a month? Now, your crossover number is only $900,000. You just erased $300,000 from your target. At our investment rate, That saves you about 7 years of working, 7 years of your life, bought back just by spending less. And it compounds. If your expenses are lower, you have more money to invest. Instead of $500 a month, maybe you can do $1,000 a month at 8% for 25 years. Gets you to $860,000. Add in the lower expense, target of $3,000 a month, meaning you need $900,000. You are crossing over at age 55 instead of 65. You just bought yourself a decade of freedom. 10 years by making 2 adjustments. Spend less, invest more. That is it. That is the whole damn secret. What if you got radical about it? What if you house hacked and eliminated your housing payment entirely? What if you moved somewhere that doesn't extract every dollar from your bank account? What if you got your monthly expenses down to $2,000? Your crossover number drops to $600,000. At $1,000 a month invested, you hit that in about 18 years. You could be financially independent in your late 40s, maybe earlier, if your income grows and you invest. The difference. The crossover point isn't some distant fantasy reserved for tech bros with stock options. It is a mathematical certainty, and you can accelerate it dramatically by attacking both sides of the equation. But here is where it gets really interesting, because the numbers are only half the story. Something happens in your brain as you approach the crossover point, something most financial advice completely ignores. When you first start investing, every dollar feels like a sacrifice. It is money you could be spending right now on things you actually want. You're delaying gratification based on some abstract promise that maybe someday this will all pay off. It sucks. The amounts feel pathetic. Your portfolio goes up $30 one day and drops $50 the next. The crossover point feels like a mirage, but something shifts when your portfolio hits a certain threshold. For most people, it happens somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000. Suddenly, it feels real. A 2% gain isn't tea-pocket change anymore. It is $1,000 or more. You can feel the compound interest working. Your money is alive. It is doing something, and your relationship to work starts to change, even before you reach the crossover point. This is what I call the freedom gradient. Most people think financial independence is binary. You're either trapped or you're free. But that is not how it works in reality. As your investment income grows, you become incrementally more free. When your investments generate $500 a month passively, that is your car payment covered. When they generate $1,000, that is your car payment and your groceries. At $2,000, most of your non-housing expenses are handled. Each milestone gives you more leverage, more ability to walk away from bullshit, more power to say no. You don't have to wait until the lines fully cross to start feeling it. There is a concept in the fire community called coast fire, and it perfectly illustrates this. Coast fire is the point where you've invested enough that even if you never add another dollar, compound interest alone will grow your portfolio to your crossover number by traditional retirement age. Let's do the math. You are 30 years old. You want $1.2 million by age 60, 30 years from now. At 8% annual returns working backwards, you need about $150,000 invested today, just $150,000. If you are 30 with $150,000 invested, you are at coast fire. You could switch to a job that pays less but doesn't kill your soul. Work part-time. Stop investing aggressively and use that money for actually living your life. Your retirement is mathematically locked in. You've punched your ticket. The train is leaving the station, whether you keep pushing or not. Now, let me address the objections, because I know you've got them. Croc, what about market crashes? What about inflation? What about the 100 things that could go wrong? Yeah, these are real concerns. And I'm not going to pretend the path to the crossover point is a straight line upward. It is not. You will experience market downturns. Your portfolio will lose 20%, 30%, maybe 40% at some point. The average bear market happens about every 4 years. Average decline is around 33%. This is normal. This is expected, and it is already baked into the 8% average return we've been using, which includes every crash, recession, and panic of the last century. Here is the thing, though. During the accumulation phase, you're not withdrawing. You're still buying. When the market crashes, you're buying more shares at lower prices. A downturn actually accelerates your progress to the crossover point, even though your balance drops temporarily. Dollar cost. Averaging through crashes is one of the most powerful wealth-building mechanisms available, but it only works if you don't panic sell, which is why understanding what you're actually doing matters so much. You're not gambling, you're not hoping. You're watching two lines slowly converge, knowing that temporary setbacks don't change the mathematical inevitability of where you're heading. As for inflation, the 4% safe withdrawal rate specifically accounts for it. The original Trinity study that established this rule tested portfolios against every historical period, including high inflation. The rule held up. Stocks are also one of the best inflation hedges available because companies raise their prices when inflation hits, which flows through to earnings and stock prices. Your crossover number will rise with inflation, but so will your portfolio. They track each other. Is there risk? Obviously. The future is uncertain, but the alternative? Never investing, remaining completely dependent on trading your time for money until you physically can't anymore. That is not less risky. It is more risky. You're just trading investment risk for longevity risk, health risk, and labor market risk. At least with the crossover point, you have a mathematical plan that has worked for everyone who actually executed it. Here is what I want you to actually do, because understanding this is worthless if you don't act on it. Step 1. Calculate your actual monthly expenses, not what you think they are, what they actually are. Go through 3 months of bank statements. Add up everything. Be brutally honest. Most people discover they are spending 15 to 20% more than they thought. That is your baseline reality. Step 2. Multiply your monthly expenses by 12 to get annual expenses. Then multiply that by 25. That is your crossover number at 4% withdrawal. Write it down. This is the portfolio size that makes work optional. Step 3. Check your current investment balance. Subtract it from your crossover number. That is your gap, the distance between where you are and freedom. Step 4. Figure out how many years until you close the gap at your current investment rate. There are calculators everywhere online. Be honest about what you're actually investing each month, not what you intend to invest, what actually goes in. Step 5. Ask yourself how you could accelerate this. Could you increase income through a job switch or side hustle? Could you decrease expenses by housing hacking or relocating? Could you invest windfalls instead of spending them? Every $1,000 you invest is $40 per year of passive income forever. Every $100 you cut from monthly expenses is $30,000 less you need to reach crossover. I want to leave you with a reframe, because this is the thing. I can't stop thinking about. Every purchase you make has two costs: the money you spend and the crossover time you sacrifice. When you buy a $30,000 car instead of a $15,000 car, you are not just spending an extra $15,000. You're pushing your crossover point into the future. At 8% returns, that $15,000 would double in about 9 years. So the car upgrade didn't cost $15,000. It cost $30,000 over 9 years, $60,000 over 18 years, $120,000 over 27 years. It cost months or years of freedom at the end of your life. I'm not saying never spend money. I'm saying understand the real trade-off. Money isn't just money. It is future time. It is the months you'll spend working when you could have been free. The crossover point makes this visible. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Every financial decision becomes a question. Are you moving toward the crossover or away from it? Are you buying freedom or selling it? The average American will earn about $2 million over their working life and end up almost completely dependent on Social Security, which pays about $1,800 a month. They work for 45 years and have almost nothing to show for it because every dollar that came in went right back out. The crossover point offers another path, not an easy path, but a clear one. Save aggressively, invest consistently, reduce expenses intelligently, and wait for the math to work. The lines will cross. They always do, for the people who actually stick with it. And when they finally cross, you'll wake up on some random Tuesday, check your accounts, and realize your money is finally working harder than you are. That is the moment everything changes. That is the moment you're free. If this video shifted how you see your finances, smash that like button and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.